I found a dildo!
Me, Grimlock, love challenge.
Hey guys, Jim here. Today is going to be an exercise in ridiculousness. Over the top, crazy, makes no justifiable sense, but man, is this thing wicked as hell. This, this is the Foreversteel Armour.
Me, Grimlock, not nice dino.
It's easy to just look at this thing and go, that is the most impractical knife I've ever seen. Why would somebody want that? But think of people that buy little metal sculptures and put them on their desk or put them on a bookshelf or something just to look at, that have intricate designs with multiple components, and you look at it and go, man, that's friggin' cool. What does it do? And they go, nothing. It's just a little statue. It just sits there.
It's an inanimate fucking object.
You're an inanimate fucking object!
You actually wanted to use it as a knife, it functions perfectly well as a knife. Just think of the absurdity of trying to manufacture this. You're designing all of these individual components, like this piece here is a separate component, this piece is a separate component, then you're going to machine all of these separate components, and you're going to bolt it all together where it all still functions as a knife. And no part of the design is much of a hindrance to its performance as a knife. Now, it's not the easiest to deploy. You actually need pretty long thumbs if you want to kind of slow roll it. You can't really flick it out because your hands are going to end up in the way of the axis lock, and the axis lock has to move back and forth as the blade moves. So if your hand is blocking it and keeping it from moving back, the blade is not going to move. And as a great example of that, it actually has an axis lock. So that prevents the axis lock from moving back, so it won't even let the blade open to begin with. So you have to unlock this, make sure it's unlocked. I found it easiest to just pull back on the axis lock and whip it out with my wrist. Middle finger flicking is the same thing. Your hand is still going to be in the way of the backside axis lock, so it's not going to let the blade do what it needs to do. That's really about the only part of this knife where the design prevents the knife from being perfectly easily used. But everything else is fantastic. I mean, it feels great in the hand. The ergonomics are surprisingly good for such a mechanical looking object. Yes, there's a lot of harsh lines to it, but no real harsh edges. They've actually done a really good job making this pretty damn comfortable in the hand. The harpoon is only up at the tip, so if you wanted to get in there and do some, real cutting, and you wanted to use your index finger on the spine of the blade, you could very easily do that. No worries there. This thing is built like a friggin' tank. The quality of the build of this is just utterly, it's as insane as the design. This is all titanium. All these individual components are titanium. And then you have M390 steel. I keep flipping that lock by accident. Not a fan of this lock. I get why they're doing it, because they want to make this as strong of a knife as possible and prove that you could use this knife almost like a fixed blade, where that blade can't possibly unlock and collapse on you. Okay, yeah, I get that. This thing is just ridiculous. Now, the problem with this knife is it's not available. And it never really was available openly. You couldn't just order this knife. The trick to the Armour was that it was a limited edition piece, and it was only offered to recognized Declynx and Foreversteel collectors. Basically, they're VIPs. They are, however, going to make a smaller and somewhat more simplified version very shortly. It's going to be called the Athron. I guess I'm pronouncing that correctly. Athron. Athron. Not really too certain how they want that pronounced. When I first saw the renderings of this about a year or so ago on King Freeman X's Instagram, I was like, oh man, I really, really want to get my hands on one of those. It's so complex in its construction. It's so detailed. This is the kind of thing that I live for. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my hands on one of these for the reasons I just stated. The only Foreversteel product that I have personally paid for and owned was the Cybertrix. I had a friend proxy for me at Blade Show last year and pick up one for me. I couldn't have been more excited. Really dug that knife. Very cool design, very cool action. Overall, the whole knife was super awesome. This is ludicrous. This is not a knife that you're really ever going to carry, that you're ever going to reach for and go, yep, this is what's going to be in my pocket today. It is so overdone, but that's why I like it, because it is so ridiculously over the top. Foreversteel. FSEDC.com is their website. And you're not going to get much information there. You're just going to see a blurb about it, about how it's not going to be made available to people. And that's pretty much it. There's no specs listed or anything like that. I will give you the specs a little bit later on in the video. I'm going to break away from my traditional format. I'm not going to do the TLDW. I'm not going to belabor the specs portion. I'll put the specs up there. You'll be able to read them, of course. You'll know the blade length, the overall length, the weight, all that kind of good stuff. There are definitely times I like ridiculously overdone shit. And it's not because it's practical. I have a million practical knives. I don't necessarily need more practical knives. Sometimes you just want to get your hands on something because it's friggin' cool. The same way somebody that's really into cars may want a Koenigsegg. You're not ever going to drive a Koenigsegg anywhere. That is not your around town car. That is not a road trip car. That is I can't believe I own something this overly technical, this truly insane. That's exactly what this knife is. It serves no practical purpose except to be a work of art made out of machined titanium and steel that is then put together to actually function as a knife. Will it cut shit? Absolutely. It's actually got a respectable edge on it. I was surprised. I didn't think that they would put out a subpar knife in any way, but I kind of looked at it and went, this is not going to cut anything. There's just no way. But it's actually got a very serviceable edge. Man, when that blade swings down, you can feel the weight of it. Much in the same way, this is completely overdone and impractical, but yet can still be useful. This is the same thing. This is just far more aggressive. Crazy design. Go back to your childhood, man. Go back to, if you're as old as I am anyway, I would race home from school to get home and have the TV on by 4 o'clock so I could watch Transformers. This was what, 1984 to 1987 was when it was on TV. And if you remember the Dinobots, which were the dinosaur versions of the Transformers, this is Grimlock, man. This is very much Grimlock. Rawr, rawr, rawr.
Dinobots, destroy Devastator.
That's the kind of shit I can bring. That's probably why I enjoy things like this so much.
Dinobots, transform!
I wish I'd stop hitting that. That is really annoying. That would keep this from being a practical knife for most people. Yeah, it's cool that you can lock it like that, sure. But every time I've reached for this thing and I've gone to open it, I have inadvertently hit this just by laying my finger over the spine. And that's a huge pain in the butt. But again, like I said, this wasn't meant to be practical, so who gives a shit? It's a functional piece of art. And it looks wicked cool. It would definitely be a pocket monster. It is heavy as hell. I got to give a huge thank you to my buddy Beard of Doom. He's the one that owns this knife. And I forgot when it was, but I saw one of his videos on it. And I messaged him, I'm like, dude, you got to let me borrow that. I have got to photograph this. I have got to video it. I have to experience it. It is so crazy cool. And I know I can never get my hands on one. And Doomy, being the awesome dude that he is, said, yeah, absolutely, no worries. Sent it out to me, and I wanted to make the video as soon as I tore into the box last night. But other things got in the way. I'm just like, let me just save it for tomorrow. Let me get my thoughts together on it. Because it is remarkably insane. I guess they numbered them, FS07. This is probably number 7 that they made. I'm not entirely certain, but I'm guessing that's what the FS07 stands for. Man, I would not want to have a finger down there when that thing drops closed. Holy shit. There is so much inertia behind that. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. One of the other interesting things about this is they send you a knife that you can very easily customize yourself. There are additional components that come with the knife, whatever you want to call these, pivot islands or pivot extensions. That piece and that piece individually, they made additional pieces that came in the packaging with this knife. There are additional lock ledges. So you could polish or anodize or do something with these additional components and then make your own kind of special variation of this knife. Build quality is phenomenal except for a couple little things. Again, where that lock is placed, it's too easy to accidentally lock it where you can't open or close the blade. And I'm not a big fan of how loose these are. And they're both like that, I believe. Yeah, they're both super, super loose. They wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
This is a knife that, in my opinion, should have been an automatic. Because there's so much going on already. Why not add the extra complication of the automatic deployment? It would also make it a lot easier to actually want to use the knife all the time. If I could just hit a switch on here or a plunger and get that thing to rock it out, oh, that would be super, super cool. Is this the kind of knife that I would spend money on and own?
Yup!
Not because I think I would ever carry it. Again, we go back to my Alpha Beast here. One of 2 Alpha Beasts that I have. I have carried this knife. I don't carry it often. I hardly ever reach for it because it's such a brick in the pocket. It's not like it's comfortable to carry. And it's not like it's going to be practical for every type of thing that I'm going to want to cut throughout the day. Absolutely not. But it is something that I enjoy fondling and playing with. And I'm super glad that I own it. But I don't love it based on practicality. This would be the same way. This would be a knife that I'd want to have just to kind of put in somebody's hand and go, hey, check this out. And then watch their face and go, holy shit, what in the world is this? So there's the eye, there's the nose, and there is the jaw of the T-Rex. How friggin' cool is that, man? Architecturally, this thing is a marvel. The machine work done on this is insanity. The way they made it all fit together and actually function is beyond crazy. So yeah, would I love to have one of these? Absolutely. Would I carry it often? Probably not. But I don't need to carry every knife that I get. I want to. I want to always carry every knife that I've got. I don't ever like to have just safe queens. I do like to have specific knives for specific things. And this is one of those, you know, you're going out to an event or you're going out, hanging out with some buddies. This is not going to be the knife where you're like, oh man, I got to do a whole bunch of hard work today. That's not the reason I'd be putting this in my pocket. It would be like, I want to drop some jaws today. I want to put this in a few people's hands and let them experience it and see how they feel about it, see how they react to it. That would be the pleasure in owning this particular knife. Technically speaking, this is probably one of the most complex knives I've ever handled. The quality and the craftsmanship are off the charts. I have no idea how much something like this would have cost. Because again, they didn't make them openly available. They were only offered to their VIP customers. I don't know what they had to pay to get them. I mean, this has got to be a $1,000 knife. There's just no way around it. Man, I need to get my ass on their VIP list. Look, man, how cool is that? Imagine what their next VIP piece a year from now or 5 years from now is going to be. As their skills progress in their design and in their machining, I can only imagine how insane the next special edition is going to be. It'd be great if it weighed about a pound less. That'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, that's that's it, baby. That's the Foreversteel Declynx designed armor. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And a shit ton of fun. Glad I had a chance to share this, guys, with you. Thank you so much to Beard of Doom. If you guys are not subscribed to him already, do it. He is by far one of the most entertaining knife reviewers on YouTube. He's got, as you could very easily tell, very wild tastes. He buys and collects some of the most interesting style of knives I've ever seen. He's a big fan of Foreversteel and Max Ace, these big, crazy, overbuilt, overdesigned knives that they work for him because he's a big, burly dude. For us mere mortals, this might feel like overkill, but he can pull it off. And he's got a great attitude about it. If you watch the video where he unboxes this, you can hear the excitement in his voice. He's like an overgrown child. And there is nothing more fun than sitting there and watching somebody enjoy something in the same way that we might. And have no problem at all putting himself out there going, hee, look how cool this is. I am surprised that there's no lanyard on this. That he hasn't found a way to attach a lanyard onto this knife yet. There's plenty of little holes in the knife that you could probably figure out something. Well, probably not without the blade coming down and slicing it. Oh, wait, what? Huh. That steep recurve keeps the blade from coming down that far. That's interesting. I didn't notice that before. How wild is that? Very slick, very cool. All right, boys, there you go. That's my thoughts on the Foreversteel Armour. Super badass. I'm going to have to get my hands on a couple of other Foreversteel knives. They do have some really bitchin' designs out there. Not all of them are as impractical as this, but they're all like works of art. Either in the way they're designed, the way that they're fit together, or the way that they function in some way. They're like a beautiful piece of art that happen to have a sharp edge. And that's pretty damn cool. I'll see you guys on the next video.